All right. Sorry guys. So sorry for this. If you're watching Twitch or watch on YouTube later, I'll try to fix this. But we're having some issues on I think on my end here. But yeah. Just having a blast with this game. It's really good. It's definitely my game of the. What probably what my. It's in the top three. I'm not ready to have the argument with myself yet, but we'll get there. But Gables, what have you been playing?
All right, so as I've been alluding to for the start of the show, I have been playing one game this past week in ad nauseum, and it's a continuation of my journey through Ninja Gaiden. Ninja Gaiden on the NES released around 1989. Now, for this game, I have been doing runs because I wanted to prove to myself that I could beat this game without using save states. So, flash back to earlier on this past week. I went through a couple different runs of the game. One of my runs, I went through all the way until like yeah, I went all the way past like level 5, 5-1, 5-2 and stuff like that. Got to level 6-1. Went through all the rigmarole of that, and then 6-2 has getting even harder, and then 6-3, it's ridiculous because you'll go through specific routes and routines and stuff where you have ninjas flying with helicopter, like almost like those little spinnable like little helicopters are flying across, throwing shuriken at you and stuff. And you have to try to dodge them on top of doing all the various platforming. But what ended that run for me was I was on a roll in terms of boss battles. Though I would die in the middle of certain stages and keep on continuing, there was a point where I defeated five bosses in a row, quintessentially. So bosses 1 through 5. The original one, like the one with like a sickle, the one that was jumping from side to side, throwing like kunai and stuff. The fourth one with the two gargoyles that are jumping from one side or another, and then the fifth one with the guy that shoots lightning by the name of Malith or some of the sword. And I ended up losing to the very first boss of like the final boss and stuff. And the biggest pain in the ass of that is when you lose any time throughout that final boss battle, you don't start back at the boss battle. You want to know where you start back at? You want to take a good guess, Tyler?
1-1,
No.
6-1.
Actually, it's actually 6-1, yes. So I have to repeat all the way back from 6-1. This is the hardest stage set of stages throughout the entirety of the game, and they want you to replay 6-1 through 6-3 again. So you're going to be seeing those stages a lot if you fail to go through a specific part of those boss battles. So eventually, after about a half hour to about an hour and stuff, I'm like, oh, you know what? I got to give this up for tonight. And so I did that. And then a thought formulated in my head the past like day or so later, where it's like, you know what? I got this special edition of Ninja Gaiden on Nintendo Switch. And basically, that has the final boss battle sequence. So, you know what I was able to do? I was able to practice those boss battles.
Nice.
And that way, I'd save it at different points and stuff like that. Okay, this is the first form, this is the second form, this is the final one. I was able to practice and stuff a couple different times, and I was able to successfully figure out through the observation of how the bosses were performing, how they were moving. And this is what I ended up discovering. So, for the first form of the boss, you have a red jewel that's in the center of the stage, and you have the dude going from right to left. Now you see the projectiles from this jewel are surrounding the boss. So what you basically need to do is as soon as the boss battle starts up, you got to rush the center, get like a couple of different slices, like about 4 to 6 slices, quintessentially, and then you got to go all the way back from where you came, jump on the side wall, and do like the bunch of flips to get to the highest portion possible. So you allow the boss to go all the way to that wall, and he'll keep on going into that wall. So you have to jump over him in order to take slashes at that red orb again. And so you have to repeat it on the opposite side until finally you go through and destroy that orb. I got so confident in that regards, I wasn't taking any damage throughout that entire first round at that point. Now, the second boss battle, you have Jaquio, who's like the main boss, quintessentially a Ninja Gaiden. He'll go from right to left, right? But it'll have these two fireballs that'll shoot forward and it'll do different patterns at specific times. I think I tried covering this last week in that type of detail, but I ended up practicing this boss battle. That one was the hardest one because it's like his boss battles, the RNG that pops up from that is, is kind of crazy. Sometimes you'll have a fairly basic route that'll have two go right like from up in the sky all the way to the ground. Sometimes they'll do a cross pattern to where they'll actually go forth and you have to stay in place and stuff as they go around behind you. I managed to time which type of fireballs I would be getting, and sometimes I would actually dodge it perfection wise. Sometimes I'd go slightly to the left or slightly to the right and get damaged by them. But I was doing fairly confident to where the I had it to where I only lost in sort of one attempt 4 health in that entirety, where I was
Nice.
basically before losing because I wasn't concentrating on the fireballs that are on the stage. I was more concentrating on him flying overhead and stuff. And I basically ended up discovering that hey, there's that pillar on the right portion of the stage where I can stand on, maybe do like a shot, like a slash, and then drop down and then wait for the fireballs to go out of the way and then go through and try that same attempt. And then obviously I perfect the last boss, of which I thought to where I did the whole slash canceling thing for the head. I didn't defeat the head or anything of that nature, but destroyed the tail, destroyed the heart in that regards, practiced that. And so my moment of truth came a couple of nights ago. I decided after work, where it's like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give this game another go, a full on run. So I started up my game. I went through the first couple of stages, It's like the first couple of stages are fairly easy for me right now. I can go through stage one, defeat the boss without taking any damage, quintessentially. Stage two obviously gives me a bit of trouble because sometimes I'll drop down at a specific point, and it's always towards the first enemy that has like these arc projectiles and stuff that is dressed in rags and stuff with a big old white turban and stuff like that. That'll toss these staffs or something at you and stuff, and I'll just knock you off or something, or I'll mistime a jump and I'll bump into a commando or whatsoever, and the knockback kicks me in like off the cliff or whatsoever. But through this attempt, I only died twice throughout that stage, which is better than how I was doing it. I was doing game overs at that point, usually with stage two, but I was able to get through bosses 2 and 3, a little bit close in terms of my health and stuff because I was mistiming things, but I was getting past that. Obviously, going through stage four. Stage four is a little bit of hit and miss and stuff. I did die a couple times during that time, but yet 4-1 is you don't have to do anything like really crazy. It actually at a certain point of it, it'll flash to a cutscene and that will drop you into 4-2, and that's where you really start going through. What I can say is what I do like about this game is even if you do have a game over, it'll start back on the beginning of that level stage. So for example, it's like if you die on stage two, it'll start you back all the way to stage two. It's like if you do a game over, it's not going to switch you back to game like stage one, let's say like a Contra or some shit. But obviously, level five, like that whole level five stages, those are some of the most difficult, or start to become more difficult in that regards. Where 5-2, I mean, god damn, this thing could be a freaking troll level, but not nearly as trolly as stage six and all that other freaking bunch of bullshit. What was hilarious is after I got through boss five, it was actually one of those things where I went through 4 boss battles in a row, died on the fifth one mouth because I didn't have enough health and stuff to actually go through and tank a lot of the hits. Oh man, stage six. 6-1, I finally was able to nail it down to where I can get across this bridge and stuff without suffering so much damage. They mix 3 different enemy types on this bridge, right? Where it's like you'll have the spawning like commandos and some that'll sometimes will run towards you. They'll have these freaking silver, I think either hawks or eagles or something like that go faster than the first initial bird enemy, which was like a hawk, which will do slowly, a little bit slower and stuff. It'll fly towards you. You got to try to dodge him and this. And then they have these freaking hunchback looking creatures, right? Where if you don't destroy them right away, they go super quick and they jump all over the screen and stuff.
Gable's so excited he knocked his mic over.
Oh, I know, right? That's all. That's how much Ninja Gaiden pretty much is in that regard. It'll cause you to knock shit over or toss the controller if you don't be
It's a
careful.
very good point. I'm surprised your TV behind you is still intact.
Oh my gosh. But the amount of discoveries I was making inside the last couple of levels in that game was really hilarious. Like I touched upon before, if you lose in the final boss battle and stuff, you'll go all the way back to 6-1 in the beginning of the part. It doesn't matter how many lives you have left and stuff. You could have like say 3 lives and stuff. If you lose that first one of that main boss, you got to start all the way back
Mm.
right there and proceed forward. But here's the thing. At that point in this run, I finally made it all the way up to the boss. I defeated the first boss, right? And then I was able to edge out the second boss. Oh my god, am I gonna do it? Am I gonna do it in this attempt? And it's like I get to the final boss. I was doing good until finally one of the projectiles, a random RNG freaking fireball, shoots me as I'm going slashing, bumps me inside, knocked back, and I die with
Oh,
1 HP left on the boss.
fuck.
And this was my first attempt going through 6-1 before having to do that. And I went all the way back to 6. I had to go all the way back to 6-1, knowing full well 1 HP separated me from actually clearing that stupid fucking game on that point. And so obviously I took a little bit of a breather with that. I
Yeah,
paused the game, I got some water, and while I'm going through, I'm like, I can't end the night like this.
yeah, yeah.
I'm not going to end the night like this. I'm like, fuck this. I'm not going to end the night like this. And I go back, and oh my god, so many attempts I went through. It started to dwindle a little bit downwards and stuff to where I finally was able to subsequently piece together a run past 6-1, 6-2, and with 6-3, there was times I would die at 6-3 because you have not one hunchback in some sections. Before you face off against the final boss, they'll get like fucking 3 of them and toss them like all at once at you. I'm like, at that point, I was getting fucking angry at the levels. Like, who the fuck thought of this?
Yeah.
And so it's like I go forth past then, and then I make another discovery. As soon as I enter into the boss room, you don't you don't go through the first 2 boss battles all over again. No, you go right directly to the final boss battle and you carry over the life bar and stuff from going through 6-1 through 6-3. Meaning, I had about 4 hit points and stuff while I was going inside it again, and I ended up dying and having to repeat the whole fucking thing
Fuck
over
that.
again.
Fuck that.
But what was funny, I was able to go, and this is the span of like about an hour and a half in regards to my whole gameplay, my final run with the game. I was able to go back to the final boss after all of said and done. I had literally half my life bar left, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to take a chance with slash canceling. That fucked me over during my first run where I got knocked back and died. I did it my own way where I took my time. I took out the head that has 11 hit points. I know because I ended up counting the shit every time I did it. And then the tail, I took that out. And then all of a sudden the heart. And while I'm looking straight up at the damn fireballs, like, you better not do a fucking rapid fire while I'm doing this shit. And then again, it's like I started going for it. And then I destroyed the core. Finally, I fucking cleared that final boss. I went through, I cleared out the demon. I felt like I had passed a fucking gauntlet. I felt like I got a fucking weight off my back, and I'm watching these end cutscenes, and I had to sit back and reflect. It's like, never have I felt that amount of accomplishment through suffering through so much inside of a
Gables,
game.
it doesn't sound like you passed through a gauntlet. It sounds like you passed like fucking kidney stone.
It sounds like I passed through a fucking war.
Yeah.
But let me tell you something. It's like, I look back on it, this is a game I've been playing off and on for years. When I first started playing this game, I was a teenager that was out of high school, quintessentially a young adult, that I was downloaded this game on the Virtual Console, a game I had on the NES at one time. Multiple plays. The only time I ever beat the game was through save states on the 3DS. And then finally, when I went through my initial run and stuff, I started getting better at the game. I started getting better at going through the first couple of levels. I started recognizing the game was teaching me through visual learning in terms of not only the patterns that it would go through, but it also was able to teach me certain techniques and certain glitches you could use against the game itself. Like there are times where you can actually make enemies disappear if you go through like a random portion of the screen and stuff like that, and some enemies will despawn. That's how I got past this certain bridge section in 6-3. Oh no, 6-2, because that one section and stuff required me to try to dodge a commando, a fucking hawk, and then all of a sudden have the one dude that I would die to in like the 2 dash whatever and stuff with the fucking arc shots and stuff. I was able to back away and see him despawn off the screen so I could pass through that stuff. But the thing about why people consider Ninja Gaiden on the NES such a classic game, one, the level design of it, it may not be the most perfect and stuff, but it does enough to where it showcases and teaches you obviously about its certain core game design and stuff. It does teach you like how to go through different things. It allows you to go through and process, okay, what do I need to do this time in order to do that? This game this game definitely does help the player and stuff like learn more about how to assess certain situations, like certain boss battles, treat them not like beating them as quickly as possible, but just going through and dissecting each boss battle and figuring out what they'll do. Like for the first boss and stuff, it's easy peasy. All you need to do is just do about 6 or 7 slashes, walk away, he'll walk towards you, 6 or 7 slashes, and then all of a sudden it's like through the second or third attempt at doing that, you'll defeat him. Where then it gradually starts getting more complicated. The level of progression of the difficulty, I feel like, is excellent in regards to that game. But when it comes to the final fucking levels, holy shit. There were there were times and stuff where I'm like, this did not need to be in here in terms of level design. This is overly difficult for what they were trying to accomplish of that. But even when I knew things were fucking bullshit, even when I knew things right there, I looked at it as like, you know what? I don't care that this thing is bullshit. I'm gonna keep on carrying on and keep on continuing anyway. And I took that mentality. I took that mentality and I ran with it because if you don't have that mentality, if you don't want to go through and say, you know what, I am gonna fucking die over and over again. I don't give a shit. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna do better and better until eventually I beat the game. And that's what ended up happening to where I finally got to that point where I fucking defeated the final boss, his third this third final boss or something, so this stupid gauntlet and stuff.